Okay, I'm live once again. I just had to fix where my videos would be stored on my drive because one drive is completely out of space and the other drive is an external terabyte hard drive I bought myself whenever I first got this computer because the computer legitimately has like no space on it. It's got a lot of RAM, which is nice, not a lot of space. Um, where was I? I was going to tell you about my dream last night. Okay, so I do have a nightmare disorder. I commonly have nightmares, and that sucks because, generally speaking, I'm very good at remembering my dreams. I'm very good at re-entering dreams. I'm very good at realizing when I'm dreaming. No, not lucid dreaming. That is different. I will know that I'm dreaming, and I won't have control, and it'll be very frustrating because the dream logic does not care that I'm aware that it's dream logic. But last night, I had a dream that I was in a college class. I was in night class, and there was an earthquake, and it didn't interrupt the class for some reason. And the class was about the earthquake that was actively happening as we were having class. So I don't know what that was. But the earth opened up outside, and these parasite things came up from the ground. And what the parasites were, they were like hive mind aliens, except they came from the center of the earth. Like super sci-fi stuff. And these parasites would infect people. I never saw one infect people in the dream. They just already were infected by the time I found them. I didn't find out it was parasites from the ground later. But, until later, sorry. But what would happen is, by the time I got outside, there was this caustic fog and mist that would weaken structures, while these earthquakes and tremors would still be going on. So buildings were falling, buildings were not safe, and I walk with a cane because of my disability, and the mist, like, it didn't eat away like acid at my cane, it just weakened it integrally, like structural integrity wise, so it was bending and breaking, even though, like, it's, I'm sure, certified for like 500 pounds, and I'm nowhere near that. So, of course, I'm slow. I'm a straggler trying to survive this earthquake in my dream. And I'm in the back of the group because I can't rely on my cane anymore. And I'm caught by this alien hive mind host person, this human being that has been taken over. And for some reason, what happens is when you have a parasite inside you, you're gone to the hive. You're part of the hive. There's not really anything that can be done for you. But when you're caught by them, they don't have a way of producing more parasites. So they have to maintain physical contact with you every so often, or you will break free from their control. That's how the dream worked. And being a part of this hive, in the dream at least, was an experience of feeling. I could say that much. People who this possessed person had grabbed were definitely not keen on being grabbed. To say the least, they were upset, they were confused, and I was there in the headspace of this hive mind, just like, okay, what now? Like, I didn't have the standard reaction. I was just like, and what happens next? And it wasn't because I realized it was a dream, because at no point in this specific dream did I ever realize it was a dream that I can recall. But I think that confused the parasite people as to my reaction. I know they took specific interest in me, and I think it was because I wasn't panicking or freaking out or anything. But it turns into this whole big war that is parasites from the center of the earth versus the surviving human population. And I think my nails are dry enough that they'll be okay. Against the surviving human population. And the humans have learned that electric shock from like tasers and things disrupt the hive mind control very briefly and allows you to get the people who don't have parasites actively in their body away from the hosts. And it's this whole big process, but I found I very much like the feeling of being connected to the hive mind. I don't have a parasite inside me in this dream, so I have to maintain very frequent updated physical contact with one of the entities, or that sense of connection and that sense of belonging and everything being okay will just kind of fade with time, and I'll be left alone and depressed, really, which outside of the dream, now that I'm awake, it's like, oh, that's a neat little, evolved tactic to hijack the chemical processes in a would-be host's brain to make them feel like... Anyway, all that sci-fi shit. Either way, it comes down to the humans with the tasers and the entities that can make this caustic mist that's destroying a lot of the infrastructure and fortifications. So it's really a matter of time. Either the humans are going to shock all of these parasites into submission and then drive them to extinction, or at the very least exile them back to where they came from, or the mist is going to corrode the last bastions of humanity's holdout points, and eventually they're going to be got by this hive mind. And somehow I wind up in a situation where I'm in a high school auditorium, and in this auditorium are 4 groups of people, and it has the vibes of like the Founding Fathers and the Constitution, trying to find some way of peace between the two groups. And the groups in question, the parasites and the humans, are both represented across 4 parties. I don't remember what the 4 stances were. I do know they were voting, and everyone got a vote, whether you were a parasite or human, as to whether the humans and parasites were going to live... I hesitate to use the phrase separate but equal, but no forced assimilation, but they both get to exist. Or whether everyone was going to be assimilated, and then peace would be got that way, or all the parasites were going to be exterminated, and so humans would remain and peace would be got that way. And I don't know the 4th choice by this point, because this was last night. But I remember walking around this auditorium room, and you can't tell who's who. You can't tell who's infested with these parasites and who's just a standard human off the bat. Like, there's no telltale signs. There's no eye color change or paleness or sweating. No symptoms. And I'm walking around, and I'm actively looking for another member of the hive mind, because I don't have this parasite in me. But like I said, I've got to make contact every so often to keep that feeling up, to get that connection and belonging boost of the hijack to my chemical receptors. And this goes on, but it's kind of like Town of Salem, the game where you're trying to figure out what people's roles are. in this room in the dream where I am trying to figure out, okay, they voted for, living separate, but both groups living and continuing. Does that mean that maybe they're okay with the Hive? If I touch this person, if I just shoulder tap this person, is that going to give me that hit, that jolt that I'm looking for? And mainly it wasn't. And by this point, I had been tasered so many times to be freed from the hive mind, because I would be freed from the hive mind and then I would just go seek it out again because it feels great and there wasn't really a downside. So I've been shocked so many times that I had built up this kind of resistance to whatever biological mechanism they use to hive mind someone. And that was not ideal for me. Because, again, I have this tendency to seek out this stimuli at this point. And I'm looking for someone to give me that hit. I eventually go to the group that is voting. This group essentially was made up of people who didn't care how it was resolved. They weren't voting for a resolution. They were voting against the genocide of the parasites. They didn't care whether everyone was assimilated. They didn't care whether people were separated but still able to live. They just didn't want to die. And so I figured that was the group with the most parasites. And I'm looking for that hit, that stimulus. And I see the girl who originally caught me in the beginning of the dream and got me hooked on the hive mind by assimilating me. And I'm like, yes, I know she's part of the hive. This is what I need. I go over to her, I tap her on the shoulder to get my fix, and she's not assimilated. She's been freed by the tasers, and it's so awkward. And I don't know her. She's not the person I was reaching out for, and I've got social anxiety. So I'm like, oh, and I don't know how she feels about the entity that I was trying to contact, about the thing that she used to be. I don't want to dredge up her trauma. And I'm sure she remembers me from that time in her life. So, it's super awkward, and I still don't have what I need. And when it gets to a certain point in the voting, that it looks like the vote for the genocide of the parasites is going to win. And it's getting very tense and also awkward in the room, because in the back right corner of this auditorium, which is now somehow shrunk to a classroom size, is this big group of people who were voting anything except killing the parasites. So everyone's like, oh, that's where the parasites are. We know who to target first as soon as we vote for the genocide. And it got to the point where, like, there were these couple seconds. These were these few seconds where everyone knew we are about to break out into a sprint. We are about to take off. This is not going our way. And it's a run for your life situation. And I am currently not infected. I'm not even assimilated. I don't have the parasite. I'm still looking for that hit. And I run with them. I run knowing I could get shot down on the spot. But I run out of the classroom and around the corner and against this gymnasium wall. It's kind of like the high school I went to, because of course it would be. It's my dream. And I'm just a distraction so that the others can get away, so we can avoid this genocide. Basically, that's the function I am filling in this dream at this point. I put my hands up like I'm surrendering, like no parasite would, so that I'm not shot. And I get down, like, against the gymnasium wall, and I sit there, but everyone saw this is where everyone ran, so everyone's on high alert to see anyone there, regardless of what they're doing. So they still have to figure out what I'm doing, who I am, if I'm infected. They've got to scan me. They've got to be ready to shock the fuck out of me or shoot me dead, depending. And I know I'm going to come up clean on the scans, and there's not really going to be a problem, except for the fact they're probably pissed at me for misleading them. But I'm just hoping the hive mind lives, because I need this fix. I need another hit of that. And I'm cleared. I'm completely human. I must have been just a sympathizer. They tell me not to go anywhere, stay exactly where I am. They're still tracking down people. And I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but someone else had planned to set fire to the high school that the big political meeting was taking place in, because that's where the biggest group of parasites that had survived so far were holed up in. And I remember his name was David, but one of the people who was running from the murder squads, he was infected. And I don't know, we brush up against each other, we like barely touch, and I get that jolt. And I get the rush of feeling and belonging and connection and everything I've been looking for. So I've got a hold of him. I've got his arm, because I want that. But at the same time, I'm supposed to be, because I'm in contact with him, assimilating at this point. And it feels like I am. It feels like it did before, until the people with the guns come back by, and they're still looking for people, the parasite people, and I like pull him down. I'm like, get down now. And I'm not supposed to be able to do that. I'm not supposed to have any direct control over my physical self, having gotten that dose and having been part of that collective again. But my resistance has gotten too high from being tasered all these times to free myself. It's horrible. It's a really horrible turn of event, because I can never chase down that same feeling of connection and belonging and everything being okay, because I can overpower the hive mind. And one, if the humans find out, well, that's it for the hive mind. They're already trying to genocide them. If they find out that repetitive electric shock while being exposed will eventually cause this, then the hive mind stands no chance. But two, no member of these, for clarification, disparate hive minds. There are multiple different small groups of hive minds. No member of them is going to accept me because I can overpower them. I don't want to be able to, but I can. And just like how it's terrifying for a human to be assimilated, it's terrifying to the hive mind that someone can do that. But I team up with David for a very short time span, because he doesn't like that I can overpower him and take control of the hive mind. I don't like it. But I know about this plot to set the school on fire. So I've got to stop that. And we use David's knowledge of fire safety, I guess. Like, he knew where this... It was more like a missile shelter, but you're supposed to get in it when there's a fire. I don't know. Alien technology or some shit. But we're trying to stop this fire, and we end up causing the fire. It's a whole thing. But we do warn people and get people out, because even though the school burns down, you know, us causing a fuss and telling people about it was enough to make sure that not as many people got hurt. And that's a whole massive ordeal. But David and I go our separate ways, because he wants nothing to do with me, because I'm a freak who can overpower the hive mind. And I continue my life. Like, things calm down, and hive minds are just a thing that happen in society now. It seems like the group that voted for separate but equal, where no one's forced to assimilate, but the hive mind's not eradicated, they won in the end. They got their way, life goes on, years go by. I find my partner, my real life partner, my fiance, who I will eventually convince to get on these live streams so you can see who I'm talking about. But I find her in the dream, and we're together, and we're happy, and we even have a kid, and like, I'm ticking all the boxes. I'm having a normal and productive and okay human life, but I still want that hit. I still want that connection. I'm still on the hunt for these hive minds who are now semi-open in their statuses as hive minds. But the problem is I need to find a strong one. I need to find one that can overpower this built-up resistance from all those electric jolts during my unassimilation in the big war conflict thing that happened. So I'll meet one, and it's kind of awkward. It's kind of like a first date situation, or maybe prowling for a hookup at worst, where you're trying to figure out if you're compatible, because clearly my intentions are clear. I'm interested in them because they're a hive mind. I'm interested in possibly assimilating, and they are skeptical because if I am that interested, why haven't I? Why them? Why is it taking so long? And I'm looking for a hive mind strong enough to overpower my resistance to get back to that feeling again of connection, community, belonging, and everything being okay. I never do find it before waking up. I had to get up and drive my partner to her job. So that's it. That's the story of the dream. I've been thinking about it a lot today. Like I mentioned, I've got pretty good recall of my dreams. So clearly I was able to tell you pretty much the whole story. There was a little bit that I left out from the time when, I built up a regular human life. I won this Pokemon plushie of that prehistoric turtle Pokemon, the blue one from like Gen 5 or 6. I'm not very familiar with Gen 5 and 6, so I named him Argyle. I remember that. I don't remember, I can't picture the daughter's face. We had a daughter and all this kind of thing. It would have been, it'll be real interesting if I ever get to revisit that dream. It'll be real interesting. Well, my nails are dry. The whole point of these two little live streams was to redo my nails. They're very messy because, like I mentioned, I opened this and the applicator is broken, so I'm barely able to hold on to it. But the point of the live stream was to get my nails done. Whoever you are, one viewer, it says. I've had one viewer pretty consistently for this entire hour. I don't know if you're the same viewer, but whoever you are, thank you so much. Makes me feel like there's more of a purpose to talking. And maybe I'll do this more. Maybe I'll use it to try and motivate me into doing more things, like getting back into makeup, wearing actual good clothes instead of, slob, lay about the house clothes all the time. Because that's a real trap when you're disabled like I am. You don't really have much to do most days. And so things like that just deteriorate. And I think having an excuse, I might, maybe, not going to commit to it, do some get ready with me streams and things like that. That would be okay. I'm going to send a message in the chat just to see if I formatted the Streamlabs right. So, test message. Oh, okay. That didn't work. I'll have to figure that out some other time. I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you again to the one viewer. Hope you enjoyed hearing about my dream at random. And I will hopefully see you some other time. I'll get better at doing this. I'm so sorry for yawning. I hope I didn't cause you to yawn. I know they're contagious. Goodbye.